Welcome to this edition of What the Hell Just Happened? I'm your host, Martin Ganapoler. Today's edition is brought to you by Logic and all the principles of reasoning. Logic, available everywhere. Try some today. In 1939, the great movie director John Ford made a film called Stagecoach. It was John Wayne's debut as a leading actor and remains one of the seminal Western genre movies of all time. One of the people on the stagecoach is a corrupt banker fleeing town with a suitcase full of embezzled cash. And in an early scene in the film, there's a discussion in the coach about politics. And the banker character finally voices his opinion about the role of politics in business. Here's that scene.
Make it warm for that safe deal. I'll report him to Washington. We pay taxes to the government, and what do we get? Not even protection from the army. I don't know what the government is coming to. Instead of protecting businessmen, it pokes its nose into business. Why, they're even talking now about having bank examiners. As if we bankers don't know how to run our own banks. Why, Boone, I actually had a letter from a Popinjay official saying they were going to inspect my books. I have a slogan that should be blazoned on every newspaper in the country. America for Americans. The government must not interfere with business. Reduce taxes. Our national debt is something shocking. Over $1 billion a year. What this country needs is a businessman for president.
What this country needs is more trouble.
83 years later, the opinion expressed by the grifting banker remains the Republican philosophy, and you have to hand it to them. Republicans have been very disciplined about this perspective. But something happened around the time of Ronald Reagan's presidency. The Republican effort shifted from making government more favorable to business to getting rid of government altogether. Reagan's opening shot was the arms for hostages policy negotiated with Iran while Carter was still president. He was basically saying, fuck government, we can do this better. He even said in his stump speech that he thought the 9 most terrifying words in the English language were, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. He then began to disband federal labor unions and started cutting taxes for rich people. In 1998, when asked about the forces arrayed at her horn dog philanderer of a husband, First Lady Hillary Clinton spoke of a vast right-wing conspiracy. Now, most folks laughed it off as a lame defense of the president, and it was, but it was also true, and it continues to be so. When George W. Bush and his vice president, Lucifer Cheney, were in power, they committed us to a decades-long unfunded war in Iraq. His constituency, whom he called the haves and have-mores, made enormous bank on this war and got their tax cuts too. All the while, Federalist Society was quietly lining up Supreme Court candidates who would rule on the rollback of any federal government laws like Roe versus Wade, the Voting Rights Act, Obergefell versus Hodges, and a plethora of reactionary causes celeb. They were waiting for that perfect storm of SCOTUS vacancies, which they later got. Some years later, along came the perfect candidate to make real what guys like the Koch brothers, Sheldon Adelson, Foster Friess, and Bob Mercer had wanted in every wet greed dream they ever had. Donald John Trump. This guy was a blank slate to almost everybody but New Yorkers who knew him and hated him. The blankness of his slate extended to his intellect, his religious philosophy, and knowledge about, well, just about everything. Did have a weekly TV show, though, as well as an insatiable hunger for fame, self-gratification, and money. He was a transactionalist to his rotten core. Now, a conventional transactionalist gives to get, or takes what won't be given by threat or intimidation, and lives his life in this carrot and stick paradigm. But Trump was anything but conventional. One of the first acts of his campaign was paying hush money to a couple of porn actresses, one named Stormy Daniels, whom he'd had sex with 4 months after his third wife, Melania, gave birth to his third misbegotten son. He signed the check for $130,000 himself and had his lawyer, Michael Cohen, deliver it personally. It was yet another successful transaction for Trump, considering what was at stake. From then on, every right-wing reactionary person or group got exactly what they paid for. And the Orange Menace, well, he got whatever he wanted until it all went south. When the Mueller investigation of Trump's ties to Russia began, his AG, Jefferson Beauregard Sessions, recused himself. The orange slush really started to hit the fan. The Mueller report brought in a slew of indictments and convictions of the flunkies and sycophants that surrounded the president. After Trump fired Sessions and appointed William Barr, the new Attorney General, he dismissed the Mueller report as a nothing burger. The day after the Mueller report was soft-pedaled by Barr, the perfect phone call between Trump and Ukrainian President Zelensky occurred. This revealed that the president was extorting Ukraine for fictitious dirt about his political opponent's son. Pardon me. It was kind of an arms for fake news transaction, and it got him impeached for the first time. But here's where the Republican machine kicked into high gear, as it had been designed to do for 80 years prior to this moment. The Republicans in the Senate refused to convict Trump for his crimes. He was still in hot water, though, and he knew it. And like a mob boss, he wanted to keep his flunkies from being squeezed by the prosecutors and singing to the feds. So how did he do that? By transaction. General Mike Flynn, who'd been convicted of lying to the FBI and was on the verge of cooperating, received a pardon for his silence. So did Roger Stone and Steve Bannon and Bernard Kerik and Paul Manafort. Even Jared Kushner's father, who had been serving a long jail sentence for witness retaliation, was pardoned, ensuring that Jared would keep his little mouth shut. And the Trump son-in-law boy blunder later got $2 billion from Trump's great friend, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the murderer of Jamal Khashoggi. Devin Nunes and Jim Jordan, two big Trump defenders in Congress, each got a Presidential Medal of Freedom. Nunes got a really cushy job in a political think tank. Trump's chief of staff, Mark Meadows, who was central to the coup plot and was cooperating with the January 6th committee, turned on his heel and stonewalled them. A short while later, his charitable organization received $1 million from Trump's Fuck America Fund, or whatever the hell it's called. You catch my drift? The only guy who didn't get a fat gift from Trump was Michael Cohen. Why? Because he testified truthfully to Congress on the criminal enterprise that was and is the Trump Organization. His payoff was he got to spend time in jail. With every public broadcast of the January 6th committee, we're learning just how well organized, desperately illegal, and deadly dangerous Trump and his supporters were and still are. Even this week, it's been reported that the Secret Service detail, led by Agent Tony Ornato, deleted all the text traffic they had on January 5th and 6th of 2021. It begs the question, what was the relationship between Tony Ornato and Don? Tony Ornato and Don. Tie an orange ribbon around the old man's neck, 'cause they won't squeal. He tried to grab the wheel. Oh, God. The Republican Party today remains loyal to this seditious traitor. They refuse to condemn him or even shun him. Why? Because they believe that their payoff will be to remain in power, even if it means the end of American democracy. This is a transaction that can never be forgiven or forgotten, especially when we go to the polls in November. Do we really want more payoffs, pardons, and perjury in the coming years? Or are we prepared to lose our freedoms to a grifter who sold America to the highest bidder? I don't think we are. So vote for Democrats this November and in 2024. They may not be the saviors of democracy, but they sure as hell aren't seditionists. Thanks for watching this edition of What the Hell Just Happened. I'll be taking some time off from making these videos, but hope to continue writing my Substack newsletter. And until we meet again, bye for now.